Seriously.
It's
What did
funny.
you have to do?
I think that I just went out and came back in, and that seemed to work. I don't know why, but that's kind of funny because you were talking about timing not working for you today, and I think that bled over into this.
Okay, I just wasn't ready.
That's funny.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm going upstairs, and then I've just
Where did we start?
Oh, damn, I can't open the door. Ah, right. Have you got a very strange view? Okay, I'm going to pop you down here. And then I'm going to get my cup of tea and my chocolate because I'm having to resort to sugar, I'm afraid.
Whatever works. It's intermission.
What about Lindsay? Has she responded? Has she come in? Marissa?
Oh, whoops, I was muted. I messaged her, but I don't think she saw the link yet.
Okay.
But let's see. Yes, it was 187 this time that we started on. I think so.
Okay. 1 second. Right. Now you have my attention. I'm so okay. Yes, 187. And then, so we start with Tom's introduction to the story, and then that's followed by Judy's. So what did you make? Yeah.
I don't know if I took notes on the Tom section. I don't remember. Was there anything that stood out to you there?
There's quite a lot that's interesting in the Tom section, I think, right?
Let's see.
Because he talks about...
Oh, I did. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I'm surprised. I would be surprised if you didn't take notes on this bit. I liked this summary of how basically he's explaining why, you know, that they were thinking, why is Judy's story specifically important, right? And even to the extent of asking Mary Magdalene one last time, is this right? Do you really want us to do this?
Well, they were hesitant.
Yes, and then she had not changed her mind. She was, in fact, quite emphatic that elements of Judy's story were going to be just fantastically relevant to all women. And then I like the way this little bit is summarized. That Mary Magdalene said that this book really is about the return of the feminine to a place of honor and power. But in order to get there, the patterns of abuse, betrayal, lack of honor, and disempowerment need to be owned and accepted. And I find that quite radical. I don't think you hear that a lot in many places.
Oh, absolutely not.
Because you know, we're still steeped in this culture of the injured feminist, where they're like, you know, we're still right. We were abused, and
Mm-hmm.
And we were
Absolutely.
right in every way, because we were abused, and that's the final word, you know.
They,
And
yeah,
some of
they don't move past that. You know, they stay in the, I guess it would be the victim mentality, and then they just get so
exactly, and this
angry
is
and
something, yeah, and this is something I struggle with personally with my mother, where she takes zero responsibility for any of the violence in the relationship with my stepfather, and with
oh
other
boy.
men. And of course, you have to you have to have compassion with someone who's in that frame of mind.
Right.
But to me, unfortunate, and this is really unpopular thing to talk about, but it stinks of scapegoating, and stinks of
Mm-hmm.
of not taking responsibility for anything.
Absolutely. It really is, to the danger of another person. I mean, really, the everything involved, the reputation, the really everything. And I think people don't think about the other side of it because it's just such a horrible thought, the abuse aspect of it, that, you know, they think, well, why should we sympathize with the abuser? But, you know, there really are, well, actually, she talks about two sides to every story in here, and she says, um, she said something like, sometimes there's not two sides. The abuser is the abuser. And I wasn't sure about that part, but it's an
Yeah,
interesting
the thing
thought.
is, though, you know, if you look at the patterns of abuse with an enlightened perspective, it doesn't take a lot of digging to see where the abused can use the cycle, the momentum of the cycle,
Mm-hmm.
for their own manipulative ends, for their own power play. And it's sick. It's
Mm-hmm.
really, really sick. And I'm just wondering how the rise of the feminine that we're witnessing in this age is going to tackle that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how we're going to, come to terms with the fact that there is actually a strange amount of power, um, in the position of the abused, of the victim.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And
It's
that's such a almost taboo topic, really, you know, in
it's
society right now, because
totally taboo. It's 100% taboo. In fact, it might just be one of the biggest taboos of the human race to date.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it
Very
hopefully
peculiar.
we'll get to a point where we don't have to disregard or disempower ourselves to find wholeness. uh,
Yeah,
but
everybody step up. No one stoop. Everyone step up. Yeah.
absolutely. Let's see. Going back to this, so I thought it was interesting the way Tom talks about how Earth, that's kind of where hell is, you know, and that's the feminine, whereas the Father is the sky. And
Yes.
I thought, wow, that is really putting it in another perspective, you know, church-wise. That really is true. That really is the case.
Mm-hmm.
The material, the earth is usually seen as a bad thing, something to ascend
Yes.
from.
And there's a nice little summary there about um, what was the perceived understanding pre-Christianity, about how the sky is masculine and the earth is feminine and all that stuff. And then he goes into this summary and how basically, and this is so interesting in the light, the last paragraph on page 190. He says Sophia was known as the cosmic mother, and as such she shared the same place of honor as Isis in Egypt and other goddesses in other ancient cultures. And according to the Sophionic understandings, she incarnated as Mary, the mother of Yeshua. Isn't that fascinating in light of the recent channeling by Pamela?
Oh yes, absolutely. It really is. It'll come. It's all the same. You know, you realize it is all that same archetype.
It's
And
just. Did you get chills? Did you get? I got a real thrill when I heard Mary say that through Pamela. You know, like, wow. So, and how it could.
And this is what we had just talked about, but I somewhere in here, I think it was page 193 or 194. This is exactly what we mentioned earlier. You know, he says the feminine principle must be put back in her rightful place as a co-creator, not as a dominating force, nor as a subjugated force, but as an equal force.
Imbalance.
I love that.
Yeah, of course. And it's interesting that you know, the second paragraph of page 191, he says this understanding that the cosmic mother had reincarnated as Mary and was the mother of Yeshua was common among the early Christian theologians. That was what people thought, you know.
Wow.
That's mind blowing, isn't it? In view of
we're so far removed from that concept. It's insane.
Yeah. Hey, look, it's Bo.
Wow. You must be on a break after all. Hi, Tree.
Hi. Hey, good to see you. Is he
I think
muted?
he might be on mute. Yeah, he's at work. But hopefully he can listen in for a little bit. We're just talking about the kind of Tom's preface to the one woman story. Let's see.
Yeah, and then he gives a different kind of slant, let's say, a different kind of perspective on the story of the serpent.
The serpent. What page was that?
That's 191.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so traditionally we blame Eve for everything. She'd taken the apple from the serpent of Satan. And with this one fateful act, she, a woman, had cursed all succeeding generations. And then he says, but wait a moment. There are other versions of the creation myth. And that actually, in these other versions, the snake is a good guy.
Mm-hmm. He opened the path to the godlike powers, it says in some cases, in some versions.
Amazing.
Wow.
And do you find it significant and interesting that it's a serpent?
Oh, of course, especially after all we've learned so far.
I mean,
being a serpent, that has to be of significance of symbolic of consciousness and all of that.
Yeah.
Enlightenment, Kundalini, the list is endless with serpents.
I know. I know, amazing. Okay, so where do your notes pick up?
After that, let's see.
So with no notes in front of me, I'm just flipping through the pages. Anything more on Tom Kenyon's introduction?
I don't have anything more on that, really. Just what we've already talked about. What I said. And then her preface to the story. Let's see. Oh, we talked about that a bit. That she was hesitant to write it.
Very much so. And then during her telling, she tells us more about that feeling of being hesitant to write it and why me, why is it important? Why is my story important? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just thinking. I'm just reading through this a little bit.
I thought it was interesting that she had a kind of an odd childhood. It's almost caused some identity issues for her because she was adopted at a very young age. I
Yes.
think she was pretty young, and then her name changed, of course, and her mother, her adopted mother, was very stern and seemed to want to
Queen
squash all of
Victoria,
her.
she called her, right?
Yes, yes, she did.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was interesting. And
Very
hmm.
harsh, very unforgiving.
But at the same time, that was almost in a way a blessing for her because her escape was kind of going out into nature and connecting with that voice in the wind, as she called it. So I wonder, you know, if she had been in a different situation, if she would be called to do that. Sound like a
Yeah,
very brief
but then
childhood and some.
she goes and recreates all the abuse with her partners, and that's sad.
Right. There was a pattern.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think for her, it all came down to a feeling of probably not being worthy and not feeling that she deserved based on her childhood.
Well, of course, her adoptive mother kept telling her that you by not conforming to these rules, you're worthless.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the last paragraph of page 197, which is the last bit of her is that the last bit of her introduction? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, these were, yeah, obstacles to flight. I love that
Yes.
that phrase, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of that's one little thing I've adopted. I don't know about you. Sometimes I talk about my own obstacles to flight now. Well, internally, all by myself. I know that sounds bad, right?
No.
But so in her case, her obstacles to flight were essentially jealousy, fear of abandonment, fear of betrayal, and general and pervasive unworthiness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And in a sense, I mean, I share some of those obstacles to flight, unworthiness and fear of abandonment for sure. So, and isn't that interesting that Metatron is her
Right. I thought that was very interesting. That
primary
kind of
guide.
masculine force coming in, you know.
Yeah,
guidance.
yeah. Especially in light of Pamela's channeling of him, and he was so divine masculine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she really had a good. Judy had a good kind of guidance system. Very, very balanced. I feel like. Although, to me, what did her energy feel like to you coming through reading this? I felt a pretty strong masculine aspect there. I mean, there's a lot of. I guess she was kind of forced to channel that to kind of embrace that aspect of herself to be strong and to withstand what she went through. I felt kind of not an abrasive personality, but a very
well, it's almost as
it's hard to put in words.
Her principal claim to femininity was actually her self-sacrifice to everyone around her, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, that's
Right.
the shadow. That's the shadow of the divine feminine, right?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
But she was very masculine in her way of carving out such a successful career. She was very masculine in being so independent all the time, right? She was very, very masculine in her very rational way of thinking too. You know, because her joining the dots and becoming an integrated emotional being came later, didn't it? She forged ahead with all these masculine left brain ways of thinking first, before
That's true.
Before finding well, honoring her emotions, actually, right?
Well, it's interesting because she didn't really have a choice. A lot of it was survival. She just had to do what she had to do, and especially reading about she just kind of picking up and moving to the Pacific Northwest and having to survive there, you know, in not so great conditions, and taking care of her daughters alone, very and that kind of weighed down on her too,
oh my
being
God.
lonely.
Her stories of how they made the most of things was really touching, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know, in those camper vans, in incredible, like, especially when she was talking about how they were, theirs was the only camper van that was left standing in the storms, in that really, really harsh winter. And so they were actually a camper van that was just about right for a tiny family of 3, then became the house for 2 other families, right?
Yeah, I think it was 6 kids or something.
With their bodies, right? They were that close to each other, and they had sort of pitiful supplies to survive on. But she says they were that intimacy and sort of proximity to her neighbors, all in the one van, was like one of the happiest, jolliest, most beautiful Christmases they ever spent.
Right. I thought, wow.
I know.
So interesting.
I know. There was so much that was moving in her story. I mean,
I probably skipped way ahead, but I just
that's okay. I mean, that's fine. It was. I mean, should we maybe talk about her first marriage?
Sure.
I mean,
yes.
she skipped through her education quite quickly. And then, oh yeah, and that thing about thinking that she saw her, she always knew she had a soulmate, didn't she?
Yes, I just read that part right now. I just came across that, you know, I knew, you know, I saw him once, his face pressed against the window of a bus. That was very interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
And then later on, we get Tom saying that he seems to remember seeing a girl fleetingly in the bus.
That was very, you know, she said, oh, that's far-fetched, but I believe in far-fetched. I thought, oh, I hope that was so, because that would be so perfect.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Yeah.
And let's see. The first was, I'm trying to remember what was that the one who ended up being actually homosexual? Was that her first marriage?
That was the first marriage, and it was heartless and kind of a bit surfacey.
Right.
They didn't get in very deep with each other. And then so this is all quite incidental, page 204 and 205. Oh God, and that rape. When her date refused to drive her home.
Oh, right.
Really?
Did she get away from that? I don't remember. Was she able to escape it?
That's page 206.
206. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then she goes to someone who she thinks is rescuing her. And then
right, and he had a knife. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, like for F's sake. I mean, how much?
Wow.
You know, how unlucky can you be all in one night? Just phenomenal, really. And then it's talking about how she set herself up in her career.
Oh, right, and she gave up her daughter, and she had a private
Yeah,
adoption.
yeah, that's sad too. But it was lovely to hear about the reunion at the end, right?
Oh yes, yeah, I'm glad she mentioned that. It's so lovely.
Yeah. So was the daughter conceived from the rape?
I don't think so. Let me
Remember that?
see. She just mentions she met a handsome young man and they began to date, getting more and more serious. He asked to marry her, but it's not clear whether that was. Oh, then she married him. Okay, so it was. I guess it was the first husband's
Child.
child. I'm not sure though.
Yeah.
Her career. Oh, that was interesting too when she I think so she got married again
Yes,
and
that was a really sad
oh
marriage.
yeah. It was all material based
All
career based.
material, really hollow. He just gave up on the marriage and was never there. And it was sad that I could see, like, I felt exhausted reading about how she was working and bringing up these two young girls, and it was difficult because one of them was always ill, right?
Oh, both of them. I think they both had ear infections and all of these
And
horrible things.
allergies and all sorts.
It did that part. I thought, wow, how do you
Yeah,
do it?
she
She hardly
coped.
slept.
She hardly
She hardly
slept.
slept.
She
Yeah.
worked like crazy. And then they were keeping up this charade of unity, and it was sad.
Well, even
And
reading about her describe the house, even though it was a very nice house and car, it just sounded so cold. Very,
yeah,
very cold.
yeah. Oh yes, and then she was on the radio talking about this very controversial case in which a black woman, this is page 212 at the top, a black woman had been jailed as an accomplice to a burglary. Her boyfriend had stolen something while she was riding in the car. During the night, her white jailer entered her cell and raped her. During the rape, she managed to grab a knife from his belt, stabbed him, and ran. He died, his semen splayed on the walls and his pants around his knees. She fled to another state, fearing Southern justice, and an extradition process was begun to bring her back to face murder charges. And then it's all about how that kind of propelled her into activism, really, which was interesting, very interesting. And then of course there was her writing career going along simultaneously. What a talented, intelligent woman! I was really impressed by that.
About what part?
Well, just in general. I mean, there she was on the radio, writing in articles in newspapers, and while having this high-flying career in advertising.
Right. She was.
All simultaneously. Is Donna in the chat?
She said she can't get in. I gave her the link again. She might have gone to the event page instead. I think she's going to try to restart her computer.
Cool. And how about how she was always polarizing? People either loved her or hated her.
Right. And that's part of why, I thought about that kind of a masculine presence. Not that that would be a masculine thing, but I could kind of understand that reading this. I feel like there was probably a real directness about her that didn't really give you a choice. It was either lover or hater. And I'm sure, some women may have felt intimidated by her being so much of an entrepreneur, even though that wasn't.
Yeah.
So I think it was the 80s. Still, there was an era of that, where women were still joining. So that could have been part of it too.
yeah, and she coped by having full-time nannying help. Amazing. So this is all talk. I'm looking at 214. This is all talking about this marriage, and she calls them her superwoman years.
I bet. That's very fitting.
I lived on about 4 hours of sleep, broken by feeding disruption, and then served my clients during the day. Incredible.
Wow.
And it's amazing how, if you can't, and this is, I can't help but think that, gosh, if you asked a man to do that, right? He would just say, no, I can't do it.
Yeah,
right?
I can't do it. It can't be done. It's impossible.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas women, they
you just do it.
Instead of doing that, they just sacrifice themselves. That does appear to be a fairly universal difference between the sexes. Men would be going, but no, this isn't possible, and we have to work out a way to do things differently. Whereas women will just grind themselves into the ground, serving. Incredible.
And for her to go through all that and not even have a supportive, loving partner, that must have weighed even heavily on her.
Of course.
Hearing about that relationship just sounds horrible.
She was alone in that marriage. Really. And then and he was at home but not at home.
It's interesting the part about her actually seeing a presence that woke her up to write.
Yes.
That was interesting. So the Phantom series, I think she said.
That's right. Very peculiar. I want one.
I know. I read that. Ghostwriting. That's literal ghostwriting.
The visitations, she called them.
And she said it was definitely a male presence. So, do you think
could that have been
way that could have been either Metatron, or I'm wondering if in some ways Tom had visited her at any point throughout her life?
I don't know.
On some level, that could be. Wow.
Yes, and what an author! Did you feel inspired to read her books?
I am interested to see what they're about. I'd like to know, especially knowing how they came about. It's very interesting.
And then it goes on to talk about the breakdown of the relationship.
Donna, you made it. Hi.
Donna, welcome. How are you?
Good. I had to sign out. I had to shut my computer off and sign back in.
I blame the retrograde as usual because we had some issues too.
Has it started? Has the retrograde started?
Oh yeah, it started a few days ago.
Oh God, of course it did. All right.
On the 5th, I think.
Perspective now.
Right? People say
God.
it's not real, but I go, you know what? I beg to differ because something.
Evidence, yeah.
So we're just now, Donna, let's see. We're around page 218 talking about her Judy's first marriage and things like that. Or second, sorry.
Yeah. The one that she has the two girls with, the loveless, cold, distant marriage, and then I found it quite amusing how she talks about the breakup of that marriage, and she's with some humor. She says he was maybe expecting her to stay and fight a corner and try to claw back all the material things she could. And then she laughs and she says, no, actually, I'm the sort that will just literally just go and leave in the things that are I'm standing up in, and how that is a kind of empowerment, because because in this horribly material marriage, by doing that, she was getting back her power. Do you see what I'm driving at?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to stay and fight for the car and fight for the house and fight for what's in the bank and all that stuff, then there's where's the power? Right? He had nothing she wanted.
No, she was totally fine just leaving her.
Yeah, she girls off she went.
I agree with that. I mean, I married a guy that was deaf. He had no money. He got out of jail. He quit drinking. I sold everything. My house, nothing was his. I married him. I paid for all of it. Moved to another state. I made $58,000 selling my house. Put $28,000 down on a new house. Within a year, he was drinking, going crazy. So we're from Massachusetts to Georgia. You think start a new life, you're going to be okay. He did the same thing, and I kicked him out. And then my sons weren't really helping either. And I'm like, my dad was dying of cancer. My older son's dad had liver disease. He wasn't going to live long. I had found out I had MS, and I said, I'm just going home. I lost, that's all. Walk away. Because I know plenty of other people stayed, and I didn't owe the bank any money. I just left. I could have lived there it was a year before they, took my house. I could have lived for free all that time, but I had fixed it so much and put so much effort into it that it'd have been like walking around crying, looking at what I'm going to know I'm going to leave. So why not just make a clean break and say, you know what, I gambled, I lost, and start fresh from there, And so when I got my tax return, I just got in my car with clothes, blankets, some toys for my youngest, and I walked away from all of it, and I went home.
Wow.
I mean, what else are you going to do?
So you must have identified then, Donna, you must have identified with this.
With that, yeah.
Where she talks about...
my sanity and my... I put in my best to try to help him because he said he wanted to change, wanted help. Whether that's the truth or not doesn't really matter. I believed him. It was a beautiful house. It was like a mansion. It was 3,000 square feet, 2 living rooms, a dining room, 4 bedrooms, about twice the size of my house I had sold. So Massachusetts, the prices are very different than Georgia. You can basically get a mansion for the same price.
Right.
So it was something like a dream to me. But yeah, I just said, it isn't worth losing my health for, it isn't worth the cost to try to keep it, and I walked away.
Wow, that really parallels that part of the story.
Yes.
It really does. Wow.
Yeah. And it's interesting that basically the death of the marriage began with her first forays into spirituality. It's around about the time she was starting to get this awakening that, of course, she was getting more into alignment with her true self, and then she looked at her marriage and realized that it wasn't in alignment with her.
Right.
Because very often when I look at kind of cataclysmic life events, I trace it back to a change in vibration and think, well, this person changed, but the other person didn't. Therefore, they were no longer
Resonating, no longer resonating.
no, like, if you raise your vibration and someone's still down here, that person is repelled. You are mutually repelled.
Right.
Very interesting. It's very basic, but anyway, that's kind of what the dynamic I was seeing here, I thought.
Yeah, I like to think of it that way, in the energy-wise. It really makes yeah.
You create a dark night of the soul, and then that just expands your growth to the point where there's nothing there. Well, not that there's, I don't know if I could say nothing. I mean, he is who he is, and if he wants to take his whole entire life to learn this specific lesson, who am I to say that's wrong? I just don't want to do it with him.
Yeah, sure. Whereas she Judy was learning about the spirituality, and she knew there was no way he could share that with her. Absolutely no way. Then she went away and had this time going back into nature, back into listening to that voice in the wind. When she went home, she was never the same.
Moving to the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
I liked that part of her going to the island and just
and the two little girls and I especially love it when she turned to them and said, where do we go from here? Do we want to go back to a more comfortable lifestyle where I get a job, a good job again, and I start earning decent money again? Should we do that? And they both said in unison, no, mommy, let's continue with the dream.
Right.
Let's continue like this, so that you can write your books and be true to yourself. Do you remember that? I love that.
Yes. And in a way, I mean, I wonder if they had returned. I mean, I feel like the girls wouldn't have adjusted very well after living with her for a while there alone. Yeah.
Well, very different lifestyles, but there's a lot of lessons to learn. Like, at first my sons were kind of mad because they thought I was the strongest person they ever knew, and then they think I lost it all by being overgiving to others and stuff. But I think it maybe gave them an understanding that if it was important to me, I could do it again. I'm not scared. I could go get a house right now. I don't think I really want to, because I like the more freedom of movement where I can just go do what I want and I'm not so stuck. I don't have little kids anymore, so there's no reason to be,
Yeah, well, part of their desire to have you in the splendid house was so that you could continue being their rock. But then...
Yeah, but now they're doing it for an apartment and paying more. And they wouldn't put forth their own effort then. As strange as that sounds, they would have inherited all this stuff from me. And instead, I'm on Social Security and they're paying more of the bills than me. And I'm still, I guess, in a way, forcing them to take on more responsibility that they wouldn't then,
Yeah. Sure.
But it's a lot of lessons, I'm sure, for them, too. And that, even though I'm not giving them what they would have, materially, that I love them and that we have a close relationship. we enjoy each other. And I guess in the end, they decided that that's more important, like her children did. Of course, they were younger. My kids were like adults already. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of good lessons for her children, you know.
And then on page 222, oh, hello. Who have we got there? Hi.
Hey, hi. Welcome, welcome.
Annie.
I think you're on mute though, Annie. Oh, she's going off camera for now, it looks like.
Oh, no, she's back. Because she's on mute. Hello?
I think you're off mute now, but I'm not hearing anything.
Can you say something?
Oh, yeah, there's no sound.
Oh, there's no sound. Do you
Well,
think
feel free to figure it out and jump in. Yeah, I figured she'd jump in and jump out again. So let's see.
So what I was saying at the very bottom of page 222, she talks about the first time she has migraines. And I wonder, the way she tells them, it sounds like they're some sort of downloads or something. Did you notice that?
That's what I wonder about people who have a lot of migraines and head issues. I do wonder if those upper chakras are just being overloaded, you know?
Yeah. I actually did some healing, some very spontaneous healing on someone over Christmas who has migraines. And I mean, I have done Reiki level 1 and 2, but I did it quite casually. Maybe I shouldn't, you know, but no, it was interesting, the whole because he suffers from migraines, and he knew that he was developing one right there. He said, "I know what's happening. I'm gonna have a migraine." And it was very pleasing, even though I was a little drunk and not exactly. I was tired and not exactly in my, you know, salsa. I apparently turned it around completely, so yay!
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with that, very pleased.
It worked out.
And then the same evening, the chap sitting next to me at the table said, Sarah, pick a number. And instantly, I didn't hear anything, I didn't see anything, I just knew 17. I just knew it. It was very fast, and I normally I overthink things and kill it, but I just said 17 before I thought about anything.
Yes.
He said, "No way." It's like, that's like I have two special numbers, 11 and 17, and then he said to Melissa, my sister, Melissa, what are my special numbers? And she didn't remember 11. She remembered 17. I was like, yeah.
I like that you mentioned that you didn't give yourself time to think about it. And that's what I try to tell people when I do my whole, you know, intuition game in my group. I try to say, you know, don't just the first thing, the very first thing. And I've heard from some people, you know, they guess the wrong thing and then they go, oh no, that was my first. That was my first thing. I thought about it. I said, no, then you're switching your brain, you're switching brains, and so yeah, usually it is that very first blast that you get. Not always, but I found that that's usually the case before you could overthink it to death with the logical mind.
It was interesting because it wasn't, normally I get an image, I very often get an image, but this was different. This was just a kind of knowing. Anyway, we're like way off topic here. Sorry. So she passes out from the pain, wakes up hours later. She says electrically rewired. And it was horrifying for her because during those hours, you know, what were the girls doing? You know, she was abandoning her girls when she was in the grip of this pain. So much suffering. Oh my God.
Yeah, judging yourself. I mean, they aren't little children.
Yeah. They were going to be okay for a few hours, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. But she was fear of being judged literally by her neighbor.
Yeah.
I'm looking at page 224 here. And that's just her upbringing, you know, straight up. Her judgy church-going neighbors and community. Oh yes, and then that's sweet. On page 224, about the middle of the page, I promised my van that wherever it broke down, I'd consider that as a sign that we were supposed to stay there. Isn't that sweet? I love that. It was great. And then she talks about the next 5 years as a single mother, living on an island in the northern sky.
Oh, and then that begins kind of her next big relationship. That one was chilling to me, very chilling, based on complete deception and manipulation.
The deception, the degree of, I mean, that is, I mean, to lie about your ethnic origin, right? I mean, the extent of the lies was just unbelievable. And she talks about how, with her retrospect, she could see where she had deliberately, you know, blinded herself and sort of dumbed her hearing and to make excuses for everything. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Wow. And I think that that really resonates with us because we are influenced by people like that because we are seeking. And so to think about someone who's, you know, kind of saw himself as a teacher and, you know, just being swayed by that and the attraction, they're like, oh, wow, you know, he knows everything. It was almost guru status for her. You know, she kind of put him on a pedestal. And then that was just like ripped out right from under her because she realized it was based on nothing.
I mean, especially when, you know, because she went off on this trip with him and they got deep into American Indian culture and stuff, and it's peculiar that apparently the American Indian shamans and everything. Well, she doesn't say that, but presumably they bought it as well, right? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I think so. Huh.
Yeah. And it's strange because I've never met an Italian that looks like an American Indian. Have you?
Right. Yeah.
How do you swing that? How does that work? You know what I'm saying? That's phenomenal.
I feel like this person, he must have been just, you know, those type of people who could just manipulate in such a way and just twist reality in such a way that I feel like he could really say that and say, oh,
when people do that, it's because they are pretty much believing it themselves.
Yes, exactly. And if you believe it yourself, you know, it's easy to get other people to do it.
You have the strength of conviction on your side.
Yeah. But we can be misled anyway. Anyone can be. The thing is that, I mean, everywhere we go, just because we've learned lessons or or we think we have, and we go up to the next step, there's still more things that are going to tempt us, come at us from the old stuff to see if we're really prepared to go up. And to me, that's what he represented, is like a setback for her because she was misled to believe him. But it also, I think maybe some of these things happening helped change and helped her see people for who they really were, instead of to set boundaries and to learn to not, like the way her mother and her relationship went, especially, which is just in a little bit, talks about her blaming herself all the time and putting other people's wants and needs and rights above her own. And I think him being that way taught her to not do that, and that she's not, like, well, Matt kind of talked about that in his last video, about judging the judger, which is judging yourself for judging others. So then you dislike you, and you go along with what they say, not because you love them or not or whatever, but because you think you're bad for saying they're bad. And then you keep going with that, and I've done it, we probably all have. And so instead of my first reaction saying, this don't feel right to me, and moving toward my joy or my bliss, I'm dragged down to this drama level, which is what happened to her.
You're shutting that little voice down, aren't you?
Right.
Your inner voice that is speaking is whispering your truth into your ear, and you are deliberately turning away from it because
you're saying you're judging others by feeling that.
And this is one of the very important distinctions we have to make, don't we, in this reality of ours, which is, you know, because this is where we get lost in thought. This is the issue here. We get lost in thought because we need to make the distinction between what we're feeling, which is always true, and what we're thinking, which can go in so many different directions.
That's true.
You know, because if she had gone with her feelings, she would have known so much sooner that there was something not right about this guy. But she kept shutting her ears to this little voice inside of herself over and over. And I've done that too. You know, not at such a drastic degree, but certainly I found, just like you were saying, Donna, I must go and watch that video, I think. But just of judging myself for judging him. And, yeah, and you can take spirituality too far sometimes. This would be an example of trying to be so virtuous that you don't judge anyone, but you've got to understand that your emotions are there to help you judge, and that we do need judgments.
Right.
You know?
That it's just basically telling you this isn't for you, and to move away to something that does feel good to you.
Yes.
You know, it isn't saying, like, say you don't drink or you don't do drugs and you come across people that do. You don't want to hate them, you don't want to judge them, but when you're around them and they're acting weird, or this is a big one for me. This is like my, I get hit with it all the time. And I feel anger or I feel something at myself that's saying I'm judging them. Because it feels wrong to me and bad, and I don't like what they're saying, and I don't like what they're doing. But it isn't really a judgment. It's saying
this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and
I have the right to that.
And the thing is, because as we're growing up, we are consistently over and over and over trained to ignore our own guidance system in order to adopt someone else's dogma that tells us how to be and tells us that okay, you feel like going out and talking to your horses and your trees, but no, I'm going to insist that you come to church instead. And just overriding your desires over and over and over, as that's your training as you grow up. If you had a Queen Victoria as a mother, as she calls it,
right? She talks about, and here's part of why she, I think, judged herself for or didn't trust her intuition, possibly because she talks about that story where she the teacher slapped her. And she ran home, to her mother saying, "Oh, thinking
her mother
says." She basically said, "Oh, she had a reason. She had a reason, and I work at the school. I can't do anything." And it made me think back because luckily my parents were the opposite of that. If there was an issue, my mom was on the phone calling the teacher at home, and they believed what we said. But I hear a different story from a lot of people where the parents just trusted the teacher and they didn't care what you had to say about the situation because it was an authority figure. And they were always right. And so I thought, oh my goodness, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and so the lesson that little girl learned, and so many of us learn, is that that you're never right, and you can't trust your own inner guidance system, and that you must, as a result, sacrifice yourself. The ultimate end product of that, is that what you have to do is suffer in order to find approval.
Right.
So that's what she started to do on a grand scale on a daily basis with her third husband.
Yeah, but even that, I mean, when you grow through that, I think you wind up coming to a point where you understand that being a victim is also a step in growth of a higher vibration, and that it's a lesson for us each to learn to not put ourselves in those positions. In other words, practice saying no. When you want to say yes, say yes. When you feel like, well, for instance, a friend of mine, her sister wanted her to take a dog because her boyfriend drinks too much, and he said he'd shoot the dog or kill it or something because he couldn't keep it where he lived because they couldn't keep the dogs. So her sister, being a dog hero protector, already has 3-4 dogs, took another dog. And I said, you could have said no. You should have said no. She's very mad at her sister. You should have said something because her sister said she'd take care of it, take on that responsibility. But she did it knowing she could hand it to her own sister. So it's really a lesson between them where one is offering you to keep in your belief system that's got to rule your life, protect dogs before what's right for me. Now, there's nothing wrong with protecting dogs, but if you already have 3 or 4 dogs and your job is to travel around the world, you're not even going to be there for your dogs, and your sister just threw another one on you. You could have looked at her and said, well, let me go get a gun and some bullets and we'll put it out of its misery. Or let's take it to a shelter and get it adopted out. You didn't have to take it all on yourself and then get mad at your sister because you victimized you. Right?
Absolutely. I've seen patterns like that before. But people are unaware of it, of course. When they do that, and then they go, oh my gosh, then they kind of play the martyr sometimes, like, oh, everything happens to me, I'm so busy, I have too much on my plate. And, well, you filled your plate up yourself, don't put so much on there.
Right. Well, these 2 women, I love both of them. I've known them since I was a little kid. But you can just see that they had a contract in life to push each other's buttons that way. So they must really love each other, actually, their souls, But that's just a good example.
Yeah, it was kind of heartbreaking to read about how she lost everything with that relationship, literally everything.
Again,
I mean,
again.
the real slap in the face was, that he left all the garbage there, filled the house with garbage, and she had to actually pay to dump it. I thought, oh my God, that's just the worst.
And all
thing
the
I could think
nasty
of.
notes and letters he left all over
Yeah.
the place and writing on the walls, so
Oh.
he had to clean it up. Or it was in her name. She'd been held responsible.
The devastation. And what was really weird was on page 229. She says that, well, she was talking about how incredibly living on $900 a month as a single mother and everything, she managed to actually publish like books, like 2 or 3 books. I'm like, how do you do that, right? One of these books was on the subject of male tyrants, though I did not think I had ever experienced one at the time.
I thought that was kind of odd. I thought, why would she write a book on that when she hadn't really experienced that?
Well,
that's interesting.
This is where her maybe her intuition about her own life, I don't know.
And then she attracted that.
And you're talking to others.
Was she self-publishing, or was this?
Yes. She got one. What does she says? Right, I'm reading page 229 at the top. Somewhere, somehow, in the midst of this struggle to survive with little income, I did manage to do what I went there to do. I edited and produced 3 books based on the material I believed to come from The Great Teacher and the Wind, a consummate accomplishment for a single mother living on $900 a month. Eventually, I acquired the rights back to the first 2, self-published the last one, and even got it on the New Age bestseller list.
Because as a writer, I know how not hard that is. All you have to do is upload it on an Amazon or something like that, get your USBN number, and you own your story, you click send, and it pops up. The only harder part or the expensive part would have been to the editing process, unless she did a self-editing also.
Well, this was back in the 80s, too, so I would imagine it was far more complicated.
Yeah, that was pre-Amazon, right? So.
Yeah, it was pre-internet.
Yeah. And then it's interesting that Adrienne, her daughter, still says this is the time period she remembers when she thinks about Judy's power, those trailer years, where we found out that nothing could stop us. Such an inspiring story. Really inspiring.
I'm not sure if it was with that relationship that we just talked about, but I thought it was interesting how on page, let's see, I think it was 235, she talks about how I think this is when her kind of knight in shining armor showed up. Remember the man who came from Europe and helped her out? And she said she finally let her hair down over the castle wall. I thought that was really nice. Symbolism. Rapunzel.
Gotta love it.
And wasn't it peculiar where he was this gorgeous friend who helped her so much and she was falling in love with him, and then he just disappears and abandons her and won't contact her, and that was
what that told me was that man, he must have, it's the type of people who kind of have really overactive heart chakras. They're give.
Yeah.
Give and give and give. And then I think he reached a point, especially since his business just completely collapsed, that he had given. He had to take care of himself, and I think that was a lesson for him and also for her.
Him, though. He was refusing help. So this is the thing.
Well, that's usually what happens, too, with people like that.
You close up your heart and you can't give or receive.
Yep. Yeah. But I thought that was a nice, though I don't know how many years she was with him or for what length of time, but that was kind of a nice break for her. I thought that was really nice, a nice period. much
So
needed.
So sad when you read that and you thought, oh, is she ever going to find any kind of happiness? I'm just looking at these pages where she describes what they went away, and when they got back, husband number 3 had just taken everything. And then all the trash and stuff. Sorry, I'm behind you a bit. We've talked about that already.
Oh, I skipped a little. Oh, well.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
Oh, and then, well, that's when remember when she first met Tom, and she wanted to get her friend this beautiful Christmas gift, and then that's when I thought that was just so perfect, that meeting.
Interesting.
And the fact that her previous relationship, that man would not allow her to contact Tom, if you remember that. I thought, oh, no wonder.
They were too distant in vibration. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he was resistant to. He knew that he must have known. Because a good manipulator understands attraction. He would have known that she would have been really attracted to Tom, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would take power away from him. He must have known that.
Maybe, I think in some ways, maybe he didn't know that. Maybe he knew that subconsciously. You know, maybe that's not even something he knew on the surface. Just like, oh, no, you're not talking to him. But you know what? At the same time, I don't think she was ready, in any case, for that. You know, the timing was right. It seems like the timing was really perfect as usual for everything that happened to her.
Yeah, but she remembered him, and remembered people telling her she needed.
Yes.
Yes.
She had his number still, and you know what she called and said to him is so strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then this is all about the visit and how enthralled they were, and how it turned out to be more of a gift for her than for her friend.
I had made notes about one little part that I thought was interesting. That's something that gets brought up in spiritual communities a lot. She says the ideal mating for terror is when a natural abuser meets a victim of childhood trauma. In that sense, we were made for each other. And if you understand the perfection of imperfection, we both got what we chose to deserve. As harsh and awful as that sounds, as long as we allow it, we will be beaten. And, you know, this is a touchy subject for a lot of people because of the whole victim mentality and all that, of thinking that you're attracting that, but you are choosing it. And that's a very difficult thing to tell people sometimes.
This comes back to what we were saying, Marissa, at the beginning, talking about the very bitter truth at the kernel of women when needing to step through the victimhood and claim it and own it for themselves, and how it's just so taboo to talk about how, sadly, the truth is that women choose it.
Well, I think we expect it.
Well, that's kind of part and parcel of the same thing.
It feels like what has been. And that's another thing I love that Matt Kahn just said, like a week or two ago. He said, like, think, have joy, have bliss as never before. What's that mean? It's better. It's not the same as. Have love, experience love as what? Never before.
Yes, as never before.
So that's a line that says it's going to be perfect. It is not going to be as it was.
Yeah, I do like that.
And that's really healing for people that were abused in childhood, you know.
And then next she starts talking about Pam Kenyon, right?
Yep.
And what a gorgeous relationship that was. What an amazing it's interesting to read that knowing that they end up together, right?
Yeah, reading that was, I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder how this is going to work out. You know,
Exactly.
I was really curious, and unfortunately, it was a pretty sad experience. You know, what ended up happening, but I guess that's
And
just
it's
the way it was meant to be.
just skipping ahead quite a lot, but just very, very beautiful what Pam says to her, and that little gem of knowledge of enlightened viewpoint that she communicates to, that Pam communicates to Judy.
Mm.
Sort
She
of right.
mentioned, I mean, talking about that, she mentioned 6 words. Did she ever say what the 6 words were that she had, that Pam had told her when she visited her? Do you know what part I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can't remember where it is though.
It's when they went to Europe, and Pam visited her when she was asleep and told her 6 words, and I'm trying to
Oh,
think now.
maybe
What's
we'll
that?
as we go
We'll
through.
probably, yeah, well, we're not there yet, so we'll probably get to it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So I'm on page 242 where she's talking about this lovely friend of hers who and his loss and how sad that was. Oh, and about how she just had this torrent of pain when he abandoned her and shut himself off from her.
Mm-hmm.
And she just cried and cried and cried and cried. And then she cut absolutely everyone out of her life except for her daughters, Tom and Pam. And they were her comfort blanket, really.
And then, is that right before she eventually just, oh, yeah, and then they go on their trip. It just sounded so beautiful, the trip.
Yeah,
You know,
that
trying
trip
to
to
take
Europe.
out,
Yes.
trying to find the bloodline. It just sounded like such an adventure, and
Yeah.
you know, that, and oh, I would just love hearing about that church. Oh my goodness, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I would love it. Wow.
So I'm skipping through now to 248, 249. This is all about tracing Mary Magdalene's and Yeshua's path.
One part that really touched me, I would like to try to find this. I didn't look for the image, but she said that there is a painting of the Last Supper, and it shows Mary Magdalene sitting under the table, brushing her cheek against Yeshua's ankle, and her hair kind of wrapped around his feet. I thought, oh wow, that's powerful. I've never heard of that. I'd like to find that.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's nothing I can do. I just have to go to the loo. It's like, I can't put this off anymore.
At least you made it rhyme.
Right, I'll be back.
Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, I had made a note on this too. She remembered her deepest and darkest demons, the one she had driven so far into her bones, talking about Pam. And I thought, wow, you know, because I do try to think of disease in that way sometimes, of how stress and that kind of thing, traumas affect you and where they go in your body. And to think that she had such trauma that it turned into bone cancer. You know, she held things in her bones. I thought, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Subject. I also like how she talks about the way Tom teaches, and just that he's, he teaches with a lot of humor and humility, and she says making the material both comprehensible and conscious altering simultaneously. I do get that from him. I think that Tom does have a humility about him, and he's very humble, but he's extremely intelligent. I've heard I heard him on a podcast and things like that, and he really does balance the logical mind out with the spiritual aspects. I think that's just like such an ideal way to be. I really admire him.
That comes across in this book, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was trying to find videos of him speaking and of her, and I just found a little something that I think is a trailer for a movie or a documentary that I'm going to try and see. Yes. And Judy wasn't at all how I expected her somehow.
I haven't seen pictures of her at all. I've barely even seen pictures of Tom, to be honest. So in my head, I didn't really have anything to base them on.
I saw her. I visualized her as much as the opposite, as quite thin.
Oh, yeah.
But she isn't. She's really, and also not as dark. In fact, I almost visualized her as the opposite of who she really is. It's funny that.
I'm seeing her now. I had pictured that hair exactly. Actually, the hair. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
No, I pictured someone else. I really did. I was surprised when I saw her. I thought, oh, because normally I visualize people really well. I was taken off guard.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I can't explain that.
Let's see here.
So 253. I'm looking at. She's talking about Tom and the sound meditation, and then of course we get into the story of Pam and her cancer. It was interesting. I thought this discussion of like everyone's agendas.
Oh, right. That was really interesting how she mentioned that and how she observed that.
Yeah.
And how you do, as a healer, that resonated with me a lot. You do have an agenda. It is true. You want to heal. You want to heal that person, and it is hard to step outside of that sometimes.
And what the person wants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we learn that when we come across people who do want to, who come to us to be healed, but you realize that they're not healing, and they have the same issues, and then you just have to accept that they're not ready to heal, and they'll heal on their own time when the time is right.
Well, they've come to you to begin with, so they are healing.
Right.
Not quite in the way you imagine.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's expectation, and you kind of, it's hard not to say, oh, they should do this, or they'll heal if they do this or that, because you don't know. They know best deep down what's going to work, and you just have to do it.
If you seek healing at all, it's because you're a part of healing, but just not the one that you necessarily, strictly speaking, visualized.
Well, it can be a lesson too. Like sometimes their guides and stuff will come to you and they'll say to give them lessons to work on themselves, because the energy is so deep in their body and it's still coming in around them. So you could basically heal them every 20 minutes and have to keep doing it. and that's no good. Healing people means helping them learn to help themselves. It's the difference between giving someone fish to eat and teaching them how to fish. So healing is the same thing.
And then,
that we need to give them lessons that change the energies coming into their aura so that can heal, that they need the rest, they need to heal, they need to take positive stuff in, and it's got to at least be a little bit higher, you know.
Sorry, my internet dropped out, so I missed the whole last minute or so.
oh, it's a shame. Donna was talking about, you know, how you, what's happening vibrationally when you're healing, and about how, you know, you've got the negative influence that's making you ill coming in and out of your aura, right, Donna?
Right, from your thoughts, from your negative thinking and stuff, and
imprint and all that stuff.
Sometimes you really need to give people things to work on themselves to heal, because you're not going to heal them every 20 minutes. They're not learning. They're just re-pulling in that bad energy. Sometimes it's because they're in a lesson. So sometimes their guide, especially, you know, I don't just do Reiki, I do prana. So learning that their guide can come and say, you know what, if you want to help them have a more positive attitude in this or something, but you can't really heal it, and to ask for suggestions, because asking a human for permission to heal them is different than their higher self. When you're standing in the distance, often a guide will come and say, this isn't allowed, they are to die now or not. They don't really say that because they're not going to tell the future. So it's like for their highest good. And whatever energies you're sending will then go around to the family and the loved ones. And that helps lift the energy too.
Oh, absolutely. When we do our healing circle, I think about the loved ones as well, because that's a big part of it, their journey too. And I think it goes back to just, if you think about holding space, that's how it kind of comes back for me at least. And then there's no like expectation really. You're just kind of holding space for the experience. And so.
Yeah, you have no outcome, no, you know.
Right, no agenda, like we said. Yeah.
It's not on you anyway. It's not yours to judge. It's unconditional. You're giving this energy. You're using source to give energy, so that yours doesn't deplete, and it's just free, you know, as it should be.
Exactly. Yep. I think this kind of brings us to the end of her portion before the addendum, where I wrote down, I like that, you know, she says the details are different, but it's all the same story in a strange way. And in that, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to, because what struck me was next on, I've just got the book open to where I've got to, because of course, as you know, I didn't make notes, so I'm just flipping through the pages as we go along. What did you think of this peculiar healing that they took Pam along for in Mexico?
Oh my gosh, that sounded so intense and so
weird.
I've never heard of that, and I thought, wow, you're kind of in suspended animation, you know, being put into a coma and being brought back out.
Yeah, it's no wonder she refused at one stage to go through with it. Very peculiar. And then she got very involved with the process.
Yes, that's where her personality comes through. Again, she seems to always be put in positions of responsibility everywhere she goes. And so I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting that she ended up working there, sort in a way, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's just so skilled and talented in every realm that she comes across.
She just had so much experience, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I thought was interesting is how, you know, near the end of that, she says it took both of those steps. I chose to call him back, and he chose to come. And I like the idea of that you're choosing, and so is he. It has to be like that. That I don't know. That resonated for me.
Yeah. And of course, they were combining that with Tom's sound healing, and ultimately Pam wanted to go. Really.
I actually thought it was pretty interesting that she was very respectful of the whole of her and Tom connecting, and she didn't really say a lot about that. You know, she basically said that's all I'm going to say about that. You know, kind of how they came together and all of that. She really didn't elaborate, and I thought that was really interesting.
Well, of course, when she first got to know them, you know, in fact, didn't she say that she, towards the beginning of the description of her getting to know Tom and Pam, that she adored their relationship. She thought they had the most beautiful sacred relationship, and she loved that. And it's interesting how enlightened Pam seemed to be, right?
Very.
Very. And how she tells on page 265 I'm looking at, and Pam tells Judy, you've got to let your daughters go.
Yeah, that scene. Oh my goodness. You know, the day that that Pam, you know, just took on that enlightening quality and just completely was like a different person.
Yes.
That was a very, very touching scene.
Very touching, very, very beautifully rendered. Yeah. And oh yes, here it is. Page 266, and this comes back to the agendas. Everyone has an agenda. Even my caregivers have agendas. But you know, this really struck a chord with me because I've always been very sensitive to agendas as well, in general. You know, like sensing the bottom line for motivation of people around me. She says, even my caregivers have agendas. They all want to be the one who helps me feel better, or the one who takes away the pain. All the healers want to be the one who heals me. There's nothing wrong with that agenda, but it's their agenda, not mine. And the thing is, you see, my mother was always trying to heal me as a homeopath and as a sort of, you know, and I had to completely reject her healing because I always felt this terrible agenda, and it was egoic. Not always.
It sounds a bit conditional. Was it conditional, kind of?
Well, no, it wasn't always. She genuinely wanted to heal me because she wanted me not to be ill. You know, let's not get too paint my mother as someone truly nasty, and she wasn't. She wanted me to get better, but at the same time, she had an agenda, like I was the project you know.
Mm.
And she wanted to flex her wisdom muscles to heal me.
That makes sense. That's something you really have to face as a healer sometimes is you go, do I just want to fix this problem or do I want to heal? And you know, it really gets tricky there when you know you're more fixated on fixing rather than the healing aspect sometimes.
At the start of this session, I'm like all bubbly and proud about how I healed someone. So it's like, yeah. But yeah, it was delightful because I wasn't looking for it. It was very spontaneous, and I just put my hands on his head. But also, I was seeing like two strange black horns of like energy, and I attributed that to the migraine. Yeah, peculiar. Anyway, oh, and that's it. And then she talks about the sparkles in the water. That's why I wanted to bring this up, right? So we were at one of the major issues in Pam's life. She had lived her life fulfilling someone else's agenda most of the time. My caregivers even have agendas for what I see when I look outside the window, she laughed. Yesterday, she said, I was looking out the window, staring at the water. And my caregiver said, Pam, what are you looking at? And I said, I'm looking at the sparkles on the water. And the caregiver said, Pam, what do you see when you look at the sparkles on the river, on the water? Do you see God? Pam shot me a cheesy grin and curled her lip. And Pam said, no, I don't see God. I see freedom.
Right.
And then it's interesting what and then because basically the sparkles on the water, when she's dying and is finally leaving, is what she has this major epiphany about being in that sublime moment. Further on, do you remember that? I just thought that was really beautiful.
Trying to remember. I remember the sparkles for sure. And then she kind of said, you know, whether I live 20 years or 20 minutes or something like that. And then she died 20 minutes later, almost.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow.
Yeah, and about the agenda that everyone else has around her to live.
266.
Basically, they're selfishly holding on to her. And maybe Pam didn't want to live. You know? Maybe Pam thought it was time to go.
I think that's something that we can't, it's so difficult for us to accept. We just want, you know, she even says we thought she'd lived. She was healing, but yeah, maybe she was ready to go, and we have to respect that when people have that knowledge and that grace and dignity. And I think it's very difficult for us to entertain the idea that somebody is completely peaceful with leaving in that way. That seems just so touching.
Yeah. And I'm just reading this bit about I wanted to scream about this mystical place I'd just been with Pam. I wanted them to know how serene and beautiful and exquisite her death had been, but how powerful she was at the end. But everyone had something to do. Late that night, exhausted and hysterical, I finally went home to an empty house, etc.
I think it's because, you know, in times like that, we do throw ourselves into activity because you don't know what else to do, you know, and with her, at least she had the chance to reflect on it and integrate it. Everyone else kind of goes, all right, well, the funeral, and, you know, let's take care of all the details, and we don't really give ourselves the chance to kind of respect that passing. It's, I can understand that, though, the whole action part, you know, oh, someone dies, you know, do this and that, call the ambulance, you know, but Yeah, I could see how it kind of jarred Judy. And also the fact that Tom wasn't there. Oh my goodness. That's
Yeah. Incredible. Yes. So what a story. What a story. Judy's story is just incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
What a life, huh?
yeah. I mean, I just, with every twist and turn, I was like, oh, when is she going to find some peace? You know, when is she going to find...
Well, to get to, you know, live in Washington, D.C. and to do all these things, and you think they have perfect lives, and then, you know, it's like ripped open what's really going on.
Yeah.
right.
And all the materialistic and what we're presenting to the world, what, like she said, she was pleasing the crowd, always, you know, until she walked away from it all. She lost it all and said, hey, that's okay. Now I'm free. You know, it's
Freedom is a huge theme in this story. I even wrote down, you know, she ends with choose freedom, choose love. And if there is any way you can bring total, complete, even truth to your life at all levels, please do it. The truth really will set you free, and there is nothing without freedom.
Yes.
So,
Yes, which is what Pam was talking about when she looked over at the sparkling water and her caregiver said, what do you see in God? She said, I'm seeing freedom. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
I think that pretty much brings us to the addendum, I think, unless there was anything else you wanted to bring
There was
up.
the peculiar little bit where her adopted mother comes, like the people around her just can't stand her, and can you look after her? And
right.
Peculiar. Yeah. Yep, so then we've got afterthoughts, a diary after Mary Magdalene, some little. But of course, what about the developing romance between her and Tom? I thought that was really touching when they were in the car and they make a pact spontaneously to be in their respective truth.
Yes. That's
right?
where things, I guess, shifted with their relationship.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that the way she tells that story, and she just really just hints at the bliss that they have, you know, in each other's company, which was not always easy because then every now and again she would sense other people's agendas, and it seems that they were, you know, their relationship wasn't always 100% plain sailing. I mean, she had her moments of jealousy twice, didn't she? Talking about that. Oh yes, an obscuration to flight, my first entry. December 2000, Oudish Island. That's page 281. And then do you know, in this age, of course, of internet and stuff, what you know, it's not completely beyond the realms of possibility that Judy and Tom could come across these videos.
Oh, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, I don't think I did.
Oh no, now I'm all nervous. No, just kidding.
And has that not crossed your minds?
No, it didn't. Oh my goodness. Wow, that would be amazing.
What would they think about our, you know, our sharing and our experience and our discussions? Wouldn't that, you know? I think that would be
We'll,
fascinating.
we'll have to contact Tom and give him a heads up and show him the videos. Send him links.
Oh God! Because I'm thinking back to, because of course I'm ever self-critical, and I dropped 2 really big clangers. Because I got Mary Magdalene's Mary Magdalene's daughter Sarah's story all wrong, like really wrong, with respect to how much or how little she knew her father Yeshua. And what else did I get really wrong? I got totally mixed up with the which snake was which, the feminine and the masculine. The gold one is the masculine, and the black one is the feminine. I got that as well. And of course, that's recorded for all posterity now. Yeah, should they ever come across that, I'd be like, cringing. But,
then they'll see that we all understood it, and that's what's good about meeting like this, because then we were able to discuss and
out about these things.
Right. It's such a learning process.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so I think we're pretty much at the end.
And she kind of had some diary. I actually didn't read all of those. There were some diary entries that she has there, and then I was interested in the questions and answers part.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially, I thought it was very interesting that the turning water into wine got brought up, and she said that was at our wedding.
Yes.
So, wow. That's some wedding.
There were some amazing little revelations. I was particularly very interested in the fact that what got completely written out of the story was that when Yeshua was driving out these 7 demons from Mary Magdalene, what he was doing is he was performing a chakra purification ceremony on her, but that he had gone to her for that service. You know, and that was cut out of the story.
That's true. That's interesting.
So, yes, and she talks about obscurations to flight in their own relationship, in their sacred relationship. But for me, I have to say, just on a personal note, when I realized that she realized that all of this, in fact, really the book, and what Judy's life was about, was actually sacred relationship. Really. That's at the kernel of this whole experience. And it was like I was a giant bell, and that that metal bit in the middle that's attached to a rope, and you just clang it. Like, I'm talking about a massive church bell. I was the bell, and that little kernel of truth was clanging at me from inside and making me reverberate. That's how that felt. And it's interesting because now I've realized that's why I'm reading this book. That was my reason. It was just like Judy. My mission in life is to talk about an experience and maybe report on sacred relationship.
Right.
And it's just wonderful to finally put to name this thing.
The sacred relationship.
Yes, there it is. There it is. Sacred relationship. I hadn't. Because I'm just synthesizing my own mission in life, and now I've understood, basically.
Mm.
Yeah. Because I must have been an awful daughter in some respects, you know, because I was there watching my parents and commenting and critiquing them on how they should be running their relationship. Can you imagine?
Like micromanaging.
God, yeah, yeah. But then, you know, that was yeah, that's what that was for. And that's why I've been so depressed about being single and not finding my sacred relationship. I'm realizing now that it's not just because I want a relationship, I want to be with a man, and it's not, there's an added dimension to that, which is that I believe that this is integral to my mission, is to find out. But then, hey, maybe now with that realization, that's the you know, you can't manifest what you don't know you want.
Oh, I like that, the way you put that. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, we all know how we manifest what we don't want, right?
Oh, yeah, we always focus on that. We know what we don't want.
Yeah, we're really active about, you know, focusing on what we don't want and making that very real. But yeah, you can't manifest what you don't know. Can't manifest something that you know. This is why it's so important to name your desires.
Right, not knowing what we're going to give or be or give to others, because that's a given. We know that. And we say that. I want someone to love. I want to feel that. Well, of course you do. But how about what you want for you? And I think I spent like 3 years practicing boundaries with someone I grew up with. And we like unboundaried each other out of a relationship. But it was the most fantastic gift I ever got, because I got to see what love was. I got to watch, like, what kind of woman he wanted, what he wrote on his list. And I started to realize I want that list. So that's what I wrote. Nice woman. She's very pretty, very responsible, kind, self-sufficient, giving. I never had those on my list. I had loves me. We're together. I don't know.
Loves me. We're together.
Someone I love. I've loved anyone. I've loved everyone I've met.
Right.
So that's a given. So I really, and I tell him that too. I'd say, thank you. I really enjoy your time. And he'd look at me weird. And I'd go, no, really. And it's like the whole time, and it was during the time my dad was passing from brain cancer. And I'd go to his house, and he was quiet, and it would just allow me to look at every past relationship. And like I said to Mark, I said, I love you. And he said back to me, he said, well, I have a lot of feelings for you, but, and I stopped it. And I said, well, it's fine if you don't love me, but I know another guy will. And I said, you know, and I realized that that was the biggest, loving, kindest thing anybody ever gave me in my life, is because I looked back at my marriages and I saw what love was. They went swimming with me. They never went swimming before. They don't swim afterward. They did that because that was my happy. That was my thing.
Okay.
And I saw other ways that made me feel loved. But it was like someone in my soul family that's so close to me and so dead honest. And it's like he was lying too, because he loved me, wanted me to live with him. And I said, I'm not living with somebody that doesn't love me.
Of course.
Or doesn't love my children. That was the thing. He was going to say, but I don't like your kids. I don't like this. I don't like that. But he wanted me to love Mark, even if he only wore jeans and T-shirts every day. That was him, and accept him as he was. And he couldn't have sex either. And yet, I stayed over his house, went crazy, totally attracted to him. He taught me more than my entire life, because I finally saw how stupid I was. That I thought I was here to help people, instead of realizing they were coming to me and not being nice to my first husband, my second husband. They had to totally stomp on my rights for me to finally say, this is enough. I want something else. Instead of right away when we're together going, this don't feel right, and walk away, part of me went, oh, you're taking it wrong and making excuses. And so I realized everybody's place in my soul family that I've ever had around me, all because of this one person, Mark, who has been in and out of my life my whole life. We dated at 16, 17. We've known each other since we were children. I know his ex-wife, Pam. My guess is he'll never stop loving with her, and he's just, I don't know. But he's a great teacher. He taught me what I wouldn't see my entire life, you know. So that's a great gift to get.
Well, that's true. To me, that's true grace, is to realize that these people are teachers instead of, you know what I mean? Instead of being the victim, and, you know, to realize that was a lesson, that was a teacher. I don't know, that's...
Right, he unvictimized me. That, and the more he would judge me, like, say, I don't know, I'm too slow at peeling apples or this or that, the less I was with him. And the less I was with him, and the less I was with him. And I really only went there when I wanted to, and when I thought it would be good interactions. So for the first time in my life, it was a relationship that was almost all positive. You know, we hiked together, we enjoyed each other's company. It was the best time I've ever had with any other human till this point. So it was a real changing point. Then it made me, okay, I'm not seeing Mark, what do? I started taking classes, healing for prana, dream interpretation. And that was, you know, a couple years ago.
I can draw a lot of parallels with my last boyfriend. I really saw him as, because he was in love with someone else the whole time. From I met him in early November of last year, and we were together till about April, when I called time on it. I said, well, look, if you're still in love with this other person, because I was arrogant enough to think maybe we'd start going out, because we loved each other's company. We were so easy together, and sexy as well, and all that. I thought maybe, just maybe, he might fall in love with me, but he didn't. And yet, in spite, that would you know, potentially be something horribly negative as a foundation for a relationship, but it was like this beautiful training for sussing out what I wanted and how it felt, you know, to be in a relationship at all, to have that loving person around you, even though, you know, but. So I get what you're saying, Donna, about how you can really find.
Well, that's the thing. Where he couldn't, he has a heart problem, he has a weak heart. He did too much drinking and drugging for like 10 years after his ex-wife kicked him out. But And I know her, I love her and everything, but I think him not having sex with me healed my childhood sexual abuse. This was the first person, a male, that ever came and called me every day, every morning, every evening, want to go hiking with me, you know, come on, all happy to be with me, and not want that. And yet I wanted it so much. I hadn't been with my ex-husband for 3 years when him and I started seeing each other. So it'd been quite a while since I'd been in a relationship. But for the first time in my life, it's like all my life I knew I was here to help people, but I thought it was one thing, and I was wrong. I was enabling people. That's what I was doing. And I was becoming the victim doing it. I was trying to use superpowers, and it was all my own strength. It made me get MS. It made me, you know, physically ill because of that role, you know. So it really does, like, all just start fitting together, you know. Even the things that you think hurt you, when you look back, you're like, wow. You know, I mean, Mark gave me the ability to look back on 2 bad marriages, and instead of only seeing the bad and why I left, I now look back and see the love. I see the good stuff, which is how you want to remember your life.
I mean, even for me, just this recent relationship, the fact that I wasn't using it as a knife to stab myself with, you know, I was just sort of seeing it for what it was, and not looking for reasons to cry. You know, I just basically it was what it was, and there was so much positive, so much that was loving and gorgeous about the relationship that you know, incidentally, we're still very good friends, and we see each other quite often. And
well, that's the other thing you get. You get to stay friends. There isn't this ugly, we have to kill each other to lose each other stuff. And you're right, you know, whatever beauty we get out of a relationship, have gratitude for that. Be thankful. We don't live forever. So instead of wanting more time with people, want more quality.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Wow. Sacred relationship, hey?
Well, we should have them with everyone. That's what it is. It means we honor and respect each other. And even if you just had a good sexual relationship, but you each were true in that, didn't cheat, didn't lie, that's beautiful too.
Yes.
If you need that to heal parts of you, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that. That's love. Because it's giving you what you wanted.
By the way, I just right now, something's happening. I just wanted to ask you about it. Do you get those little tones in your ears sometimes? You know, like people talk about it in the religious communities.
Oh, the kind of ringing of the ears?
The whining,
buzz,
but high-pitched.
Yeah.
I hear about that. I hear it's, well, in my perception, I think that can be related to the third eye when you're getting some information and you're kind of processing it. But it could be many things.
It's happening to me right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting it in my left ear, like right here.
Me too.
Oh my gosh. I have headphones on, so I'm not feeling anything there.
Right, yeah, and I've been having it for I've been noticing it this past week, really. Yes, quite a lot. Because what's his name? Eric. I of the Higher Balance Institute, Eric somebody. He talks about how it's really important. You can do something with that. I
Trying to think. I've read a lot of his stuff too. I have a couple of his books.
No, really, I
What's
haven't
his name?
read him.
Eric.
But
Eric what? What was his name?
I can't remember his name now. His
yeah, me
surname.
neither. But
Well, if you just search Higher Balance Institute, you'll find it straight away. But I'm in two minds about the guy.
Melissa, the stuff on generator, and all that.
The human design stuff?
Yeah.
Oh,
the
okay.
design stuff was from them.
Oh, Eric Pepin? Is that who?
Yeah.
Eric
Yeah.
Pepin.
Okay.
He's an odd fish.
He is. He can get kind of mad too. I've seen a couple of his angry, everybody's judging me kind of videos, but I guess, you know, we all go through that. That's a temptation to have an ego big head, right? So
Yeah. And of course, once again, conscious of the fact that here we are talking about people who, you know, are very much alive and can very much find this video and listen to it.
that's okay, because I'll also say I love a lot of this stuff too. You know, I do read it, but I like to read like everything, even what I'm pretty sure I'm not going to agree with. Because sometimes, half the time, I find myself changing my thoughts and fears and feelings, beliefs, and it'll heal something. And I'll just move, you know?
That's what I try to do too. That's the only way to expand. Absolutely. If you just stick in the subjects that you're comfortable with, you're not going to grow. And there's always something to learn. Even if you don't resonate with something, you're at least finding your own truth. Cementing them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, all healing is challenging, you know, which is interesting because Pam herself in the book, she did some you know, there was a stage in her healing when she came out of a coma with lots of unlocked memories. And she worked through a bunch of stuff, and then there was a point where she just didn't want to do any more of that, and that's effectively when she decided to die. Instead, at least that's what I picked up or intuited from there. So, Judy and Tom, if you're watching, if you ever get to see this, my heartfelt thanks for this beautiful book. And I really, really hope to come and maybe attend one of your workshops one day. I've looked on the website, and there's Judy says somewhere on the website, watch out because we don't know how long these workshops are going to continue. How many more opportunities the public have to come and meet us and stuff.
I don't think there were very many listed for 2016, if any at all, yet, right?
No.
I looked too.
No, and I'm really sorry about that. I mean, obviously, for me, it's going to be tricky. I'm going to have to come over to the States, and that's you know, an expensive proposition. But it was very tantalizing to see them. Apparently, they spent some time in Berlin. And I thought, oh, I could pop over to Berlin, you know. But no sign of them coming to Europe or going anywhere in 2016.
I'm hoping it's just that they haven't really announced anything. They could have something in the works, and I'll be following, and I'll be keeping an eye on their event page. And really, I mean, I don't know if you guys have gone to the site or explored it, but there's a lot of goodies on there. There's some downloads and a lot of free stuff that I would highly recommend.
Massive stuff. I want to get some of Tom's music.
Oh, that's what I was going to mention. I did get the CD, The Songs of Magdalen.
Yes,
And I've been listening to it while I read, and it just really, really enhances the experience.
I
Yeah,
really want to. I really want to get hold of it.
What's on it?
How much was it?
Oh, it was actually a little pricey for a CD. Now, I think it was at least $15 before shipping, if not more than that. I think it's just kind of hard to find sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I got the physical CD though. I wanted the physical one. I didn't just get the digital download. So that was part of it. You could get the digital one. I don't remember how much that costs, but there's about 10 songs on there, 9 or 10, and really beautiful.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, I'm really grateful for the experience and that we've been able to, even though it's just a few of us today, to be able to kind of close the chapter.
Where the last lady's standing.
Right.
And then there were 3.
Well, what I was going to, and I don't know how many people in the group would be into it, but I would love to continue the circle with some other material, with some other readings. I think that would be great.
I'm sure something will present itself immediately.
I would like to pose it to the group and kind of ask, maybe we could even do a poll. People could give their suggestions of what we could read next, and we could vote, something like that, see where it takes us. But I'm just so grateful for the experience and for sharing the book with everybody, because I know it would have been a totally different experience if I had just read it and had no one to talk to about it. It's so important.
I feel like we owe you a real debt of gratitude, Marissa, for being the instigator. And
I felt so guilty about the last month being so busy and trying to close off the book, but I'm glad that you guys stuck with it.
It's the busiest time of year. What do you?
Oh, don't feel bad. I mean,
no, of course not.
Been crazy hectic too.
I think everybody went crazy last month anyways, so I think the timing's always right. I need to trust that. It's always right.
Yes,
and it's always the people who show up, it works out really perfectly, I think.
I haven't watched back the last one. Did you watch it back, Marissa?
No, I didn't.
Did you, Donna?
The last one, did I watch it back? I usually do. I'm not sure if I did that one.
Yeah. I guess we just all got really busy, didn't we? It's the busy month of the year, December.
What I'll probably do is link to all the videos. This is our 4th one now. I'll link to them in the chat for anyone who wants to rewatch it. There are actually some people in the chat who I've talked to who go, oh, I wish I could make the discussions, but I haven't been able to, and can we talk about it in the chat room at all? So I think it would be nice to say, hey, we're all done with the book. If you're done with it, tell us what you think. Start some.
Do you think we should drop Tom and Judy a line about this?
It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
And, maybe we could continue. I don't know if he has other books. Have you looked into his works? He must have other books.
He does have other books. Doesn't it say in the book itself here at the beginning, like what else he's?
It's probably more like sound healing books and stuff like that, I'm thinking.
No, isn't there another one on alchemies of Egypt?
Oh.
Yeah, there's another book on alchemies of Egypt, I seem to remember. The alchemies... Oh, no, right. No, that is...
I'm reading in the back, it's talking about, the alchemies of... Oh, that's a recording, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, of course, he's done his brain research. Is there a book
brain states. Ooh, co-author of the Hathor material. What about that one? That might be a good one.
That's the one I'm talking about.
I'd be into that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be too.
Yeah, I'll mention that in the group chat.
Wouldn't that be incredible if we met in person?
Oh yes.
I mean, I have to not think about it too hard. Otherwise, I just no. I turn to mush, you know, and I have to function on a daily basis. I can't be thinking about holding them in my arms too much. I have to, you know, I have to.
You have to stay grounded in reality.
Yes, and just not get too carried away. But imagine if we all of us in this group met up at one of Tom and Judy's workshops.
Oh, what if we did a sacred tour? They do sacred tours. That's my dream. That would be amazing. We all did that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll be following the events, and we'll see what comes up. You never know. You never
Yeah.
know if there's something that we could all
Maybe
attend.
they'll fall in love with us when they watch our videos and just do it just for us.
Just for us, private
That would be
screening.
nice.
Oh, bless them.
Wow. Ladies, thank
Well, I
you
do-
for
I do
showing up
feel-
today.
I do feel a
Mm.
strange kind of kinship with them. Like I could just happily spend a few days in a country cottage somewhere with them and with you guys.
Right.
And
It feels like we know them.
yeah, and
Bringing their experience.
I could just cook and Tom could play and sing and you could heal and the two
I'll
of
be
you.
the waitress.
I was going to say I could eat and listen. I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with that. Oh.
Oh my
Speaking
word.
of
And
which,
her
yes, I.
sister Sarah and that's kind of funny.
Guys, it's 20 to 1 and I've got work in the morning. So
I need to eat. Speaking of food, but yeah, I'm so glad you guys took the time, especially you, Sarah. I know it's so late, so and I know you have to work, but
yeah, and
hopefully you'll
I
have interesting
didn't get a
dreams.
rest today. I didn't get a rest today.
Mhm.
And,
Right.
And I've got to have my wits about me tomorrow. So because we're normally closed, the shop, and I must send you the link to our website so you can have a look at the shop.
Oh yeah, I want to see that. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And-
Okay, I guess we'll close it off then.
Mhm.
So everyone, enjoy your night. I
Much
think I'll
love to you.
meditate. I'll meditate
was
today and see what
wonderful.
comes up. Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.